is America's Mayor live from Palm Beach, Florida. While our president is toiling and quite successfully in the Middle East, hitting. I mean, I looked at the schedule. I got the printout. Ted and I got the printout of the schedule, and it is brutal. It's brutal. I mean, I've done these trips there. I spent a great deal of time traveling back and forth to Qatar, and to some extent Dubai, but I did a lot more work in Qatar. So it was very interesting to see some of the pictures today of it's grown since I saw it last. But there's serious issues there, particularly with Qatar. I mean, Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, Dubai, and the United Arab Emirates, those are very, very solid friends of the United States, and have been for quite some time. And even with the break with Biden, have maintained a very close relationship with most of their American friends, which were on both sides of the aisle for a while until Biden decided to condemn the Crown Prince. But in any event, I think whatever that was about is gone, and Trump comes back not with 650, but he comes back with 1.2 trillion in investments by one of the richest, maybe the richest country in the world, or one of the richest countries in the world, or a country that's rich enough to make a difference for us because we're so darn rich, right? His trip to Qatar, so far there haven't been a lot of readouts on exactly what they talked about. They had a lot more issues to talk about. I mean, the main issue that Israel and is Israel. The main issue with Saudi Arabia is, can we do an Abraham Accord? He's obviously pushing very, very hard for that. And always, although it is de-emphasized, the fear that Saudi Arabia has, or realistic concern that Saudi Arabia has for Iran is as great as Israel. It has been downplayed a little in the last 4 years when they didn't have America backing them up because Biden was on Iran's side. But you could have a real debate between scholars as to which country is more concerned about Iran long term, Israel or Saudi Arabia. Now, long term, it would be Saudi Arabia because it's been about 1,000 more years that they've had problems with Persia. So I am sure that although the idea of Israel and Abraham Accord and everything else came up, Iran was a big topic of conversation. And I would suspect that Mohammed bin Salman, like Israel, would be a lot more comfortable if those nuclear facilities were taken out. Now, he has discussed and looked into becoming a nuclear power himself. And he has said, in a not so guarded statement, that if Trump were back in office, this is a while back, he would consider some kind of sharing relationship with the United States, kind of like Japan wants to have, and some of the others. So, China. We've made a deal. We have made a deal. We've made an interim deal with China. 90 days can be considered very short. 90 days can be considered very long. But in any event, we've made a rather inventive deal in China, and I would say that now we're having what I call the navel gazing. Where we have who won. So let's review the deal quickly for a second. So we had like 145% tariff on them. That escalated all the way up to 240. I don't even know how you do a 245% tariff, right? You're going to pay more than the thing is worth. So you sell a $100 item and you got to pay $245 in tariff. Well, that's what the numbers say. So Now, please understand that 245% was only on certain things. It was basically, something more moderate, like 125. Tariffs are usually 2%, 3%, 4%. These tariffs are, whoa. So they retaliated by putting 145% tariff on us. And then more important than the tariffs, they cut off the rare earth minerals, which we need to be competitive with them. And they, of course, have created a monopoly in rare earth minerals. And they've done it by using the very practices that we're trying to stop. They've done it by monopolizing as best they could rare earth minerals. What does that mean? That means they have a lot in China. But as the Wall Street Journal made clear the other day, they're not as flush with minerals as they like to say. They've gone around the world and bought them or stolen them. And one of the places they bought a lot is a country that may have more than them. And you'd be interested in what country that is. Ukraine. And now you get an idea of why the president was negotiating so heavily to get that agreement with Ukraine, because he wants those rare earth minerals where if he can get his hands on them, as it seems he has, immediately he becomes competitive with China. So yes, they held back the rare earth minerals for a week because the press does not want to make the deal look like a success for Trump. They leave out the most important part of it. And from our point of view, the most important part of it is, from China's point of view, the tariff is the most important part. From our point of view, the most important part is getting our hands on those rare earth minerals. Well, they're coming. That was opened up. That was opened up. And it doesn't matter what tariffs there are. The main thing is we got to get them. So the basic tariff with China is going to be 35%, not 280%. But the basic tariff the other way around is only 10%. Now, you tell me, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and all of you intellectually dishonest creeps, tell me how China won. By paying 3 times more than us? And caving in on the rare earth mineral. I'm actually surprised they caved in on that. I'm shocked, Ted, that they caved in on the rare earth minerals.
Why is that?
Well, because that's the one. The rest of it can hurt us economically, but given the fact that they count on exporting by a factor of 3 to 1 to how we count on importing from them. Any damage that they do to us, we can do 3 times more damage to them. And their position as an exporting nation is much more important to them than our position as an importing nation, with one exception: the things that are necessary to defend ourselves. And that was the rare earth minerals. The rest of it, is going to be economically unsettling, but we're going to, if we haven't already solidified the whole chip situation, I'm shocked.
And we sprung into action to source these rare earths.
Yeah, and I have to say another thing. The Biden administration, although they were doing it like the tortoise and the hare, and the usual Biden
make an announcement for like some amounts of money and then waste it.
But they began moving and getting their hands on more and more chip manufacturing, and they've been doing it all. Trump started doing it, and they continued it. Now Trump has put it in Trump time and high gear.
Well, you go down to some of those sites, like down in Texas, Arizona. It is
incredible. Arizona. I don't know, if you want to get a job, go to Arizona. The largest chip manufacturer in the world is moving a substantial amount of their chip manufacturing to Arizona, and that's of course a Taiwanese company, and that makes sense economically. It also makes sense if China were to invade Taiwan. Taiwan wants to be able to have the ability to produce those chips on an ongoing basis somewhere else, because even China doesn't have this one technology they haven't stolen. yet.
Well, it's very difficult.
And maybe because we don't do it. Taiwan does a better job of protecting its technology than we do.
Well, they know who they're dealing
and
with.
And now
right?
we will be doing it, so maybe they'll steal it right away. I mean, I don't know.
That's right.
We got penetrated so badly by China; it's an embarrassment.
Well,
having worked in this business back in the Cold War in the 70s and the 80s, and helping to establish the FISA court, probably did 100 warrants against Russian spies. So I know Russian spying really, really well. Know a little bit about Chinese, but the emphasis then was Russia. Their degree of sophistication is much greater than Russia. I mean, their degree of penetration is frightening.
Well, and their means are just so much more
frightening, absolutely frightening. And then the advantage they got, the tremendous advantage they got from Biden's ridiculous opening of the borders. For 4 years, they could send anybody in they wanted.
That's right. Well, the U.S. is actively working to increase its share of global chip manufacturing, aiming to boost its domestic production from the current about 10% up to 14%. So a 4% increase, that by 2032. This effort is driven, of course, by the CHIPS and Science Act back in 2022. Many of us remember that, of course, the CHIPS and Science Act, which provides funding and incentives to attract companies to build fabrication facilities here in the U.S. I wonder
if that was done before we made the deal with the largest company in the world or after, because it would seem to me that the inclusion of them alone is going to get us closer to 20 or 30%.
Right. New chip factories are being built in states like Arizona, Texas, and others.
But those are huge too. I'm interested to see. I bet they're bigger than Palm Beach Island almost. Some of those factories. You drive by and it takes you 10, 15 minutes to get to the other side of the site.
Well, of course, this is all an interim agreement for 90 days. You never know how long an interim agreement will last. It might last considerably longer than just 90 days. Now, there is a specific 20% tariff that's being placed on them for fentanyl, and will not be lifted until they present us with a concrete plan and begin acting on it to reduce the amount of fentanyl, and we see the reduction.
So the tariffs are we
have had for years agreements with them where Xi Jinping says, "Oh, I'm going to reduce the fentanyl. I'm going to reduce the fentanyl," and we say, "Oh, yes, that's good." But of course, how? Where's the plan? What are you going to do? You're going to turn over the people who are doing it? You know who they are. Nothing happens in China that they don't know. And this 20% tariff is stuck on everything. And they don't even object to it in the negotiations. And they sent over some of their law enforcement people to discuss for the first time a plan to stop it. So this may be hurting them economically. So that if you do the trade-off for the amount of money they make from fentanyl and the amount of money they're losing on the 20% tariff, Trump may have hit a sweet spot. Let's hope that's true. And the other good news for us is that inflation is cooling down. The projection on inflation is lower than was thought. And, it's amazing. The deal gets done with the UK. The deal gets done partially with China. And all of a sudden, inflation comes down. And now all the people that were saying there's a 50% chance of a recession now say, well, it's very unlikely. It's only like a 2%, 0.2% change in what the inflation number is. But the inflation number that the left-wing press was exaggerating is pretty damn small. It's the difference between 2.3 and 2.5%, Ted and Stephen. You know what it was at the height of Biden? 9%. The ideal is less than 2%. So we're just a little over 2%. So we're not ideal, but we're in pretty good shape. And also the price of gasoline has come down.
Right.
Now, a good relationship with Saudi Arabia, given the fact that we've become big players with oil, also will assure the fact that the price of gasoline we can adjust it without taking our national reserve, which was a sin.
And you know what
An
that
absolute
does?
sin.
You know what that does in Russia when the price of oil falls?
Yeah, Russia can't survive.
Yep. And so it all comes back to it.
Yeah, there's a number. Maybe it's $50 a barrel.
Hey, I'll take that.
Well, and of course, Mayor, the mainstream media and so many refuse to highlight the president's historic.
There's a price they need to survive. But when it was down to $32, they were basically in depression.
Right. But Mayor, of course, the media continues to hide and refuse to cover the president's rather historic speech in Riyadh yesterday, right, where he was willing to criticize past U.S. foreign policy missteps and really empower the people in the regions there, right, instead of what we've seen over many decades of nation building and attempts to insert outsiders' will on the people there. The president is really charting a vision of the future that empowers the regional powers there in the region, and kind of calls for us to step back in terms of us trying to impose our culture on them, and maybe pull back from the nation building and some of the mistakes we've made from a foreign policy standpoint in the region for decades.
Yeah, we used to be good at nation building. We were the best country in the history of the world in nation building. Think about it. Maybe Rome was. Well, think about it. Who were our enemies in the Second World War?
Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Fascist Italy.
Yeah.
And I guess Japan, the empire of Japan.
Two of our best friends in the world right now are Japan and Italy, and Germany was, until Germany went wacky. Germany is now a major problem.
Well, the character of Germany just changed
Germany
completely with the amount of immigration.
Germany is putting people in jail for free speech.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And they go on and they defend it.
The big, beautiful bill has become a big, beautiful debate. And the GOP is divided. Now, what I don't understand is how they're never divided. And they're doing all kinds of evil things. We're trying to pass a bill which has good points and bad points. And we may disagree on the good points and the bad points. But I can assure you there's nothing in this bill that's evil. It's economic policy. There may be some that help some people more than others. There's some things that you may debate don't help the economy. I may think it does. But these are the kinds of debates you're supposed to have. But why we can't get unity on this when there is an important thing to be done. Cutting spending is critically important. But right now, I would say the priority is getting the tax bill extended for at least a decade, and as much of it permanent as possible. Now, the last time this tax bill passed, our economy boomed. It's not going to boom exactly the same way because we're basically carrying on where we are. We would get killed if it didn't happen because taxes would go way up. Your taxes are not going to come way down. They're going to stay where they are. But we're not going to start stealing a lot more of your money. Some taxes are going to come down, and that will help. Where we're going to get the economic benefit here is the certainty of taxes, so you can plan on it. And that'll lead to even more investment and more growth. To do that, we got to make these permanent. A few of them, they're talking about a 3-year fuse. It's got to be at least 10 to have an impact. And so the debate between the Republicans or those who make taxes the major priority right now and those who say we're not doing enough about spending. The reality is we are not doing enough about spending. And I just don't see, with the very slim majority that we have, how we can do everything in this bill. So you have to prioritize. That's what governing is about, by the way, prioritizing. Ronald Reagan was brilliant at it. If you try to do everything, you do nothing. At the long run, you got to figure out. And to get things done when you don't have a big majority, I know you all think this is a word of cowardice and submission, but you have to do some compromising. If you have a 2 or 3 vote majority, you have to do compromising. You just have to know how to compromise smarter than the other guy. But that doesn't mean he's going to win some battles. You can't make a complete fool out of him. Otherwise, he won't compromise with you. So it can be interesting to see what comes out of this. Let's take one as an example, and I hope I'm not being too parochial here. Even though I'm a Floridian now, I sort of still think like a New Yorker. So one of the major things that happened was we limited the deduction for state and local taxes on your tax return. Now, for a lot of people, it's irrelevant. For the people who are using a standard deduction, it doesn't matter. The bill increases. Here's a place where when they say, oh, the middle class isn't being helped, the poor aren't being helped, like hell they're not. The standard deduction is going up. People in the lower middle class use the standard deduction. Rich people don't use the standard deduction. The fact that we're raising the standard deduction will not have any impact on Elon Musk. Believe me, he doesn't even know what the standard deduction is. And the accountants he uses don't know what it is. But it's going up by $1,000. That's a big impact. The child credit is going up. Again, Elon Musk doesn't, he got a lot of kids, a lot of different women, but he doesn't need the child credit. He'd probably like to have it, but he doesn't need it. So when they say that the Trump bill doesn't help poor people, it is such a damn lie. It's just such a lie. But these taxes really, though, the way they affect our economy, yes, they will affect our consumer economy. People are going to get a little bit more money. Not getting a lot more money like they did last time. They get a little bit more money. But the businesses are going to get a lot more certainty. And when you combine that with the tremendous regulatory reduction that's going on like obsessively, this should be a big business boom if it can get out in the next 2 or 3 months. It's got to take 6, 7 months to have effect. And frankly, we have to think somewhat politically. We have elections in 2026. And if they get control of the House, they're going to impeach them 10 times. I mean, the House will just spend the entire time impeaching them, lying like they did before, but just to try to, I don't even know why they do it. It doesn't even stop them. I mean, they indicted him 4 times. They convicted him of 2 felonies, and he became president of the United States. And they tried to kill him. What else? They got nothing else to do. Why don't they just give up and let him be president and then, try to win in 2028? So we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll take a look at let's take a look at how the new Pope is doing, because he hasn't been sworn in yet. Of course, that's the wrong word for it. I guess
sworn in.
No, they don't call it.
He hasn't been officially.
What do they call it? They don't call it a coronation because he's not a king.
He said accepto.
Well, accepto was what he said when he took accepto.
He still has he hasn't had his opening mass, right? He's
had his opening mass.
Has.
He did.
So what's
he has not been crowned the Pope.
Coronated. Do they do a coronation?
No, they don't call it that, but it's like that.
There's no papal
the
tiara
English
anymore.
king usually doesn't get crowned for about 9 months. It's like a 9-month period. He's the king.
They no longer call it,
but they don't have the big ceremony. Remember, Charles was about 8 or 9 months after the death of his mother.
Well, they refer to it as a coronation up until 1963.
Yeah, now what do they call it? Investiture? Might be investiture. That's what a bishop has.
Right.
Well, we're going to be right back, and we'll talk about that. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month.
Wow.
Including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. Well, there is a new pope. Things have quieted down since the selection process, and then the white smoke and the black smoke, and is he a liberal? Is he a conservative? What's he going to do on all these issues? Kind of a simplistic analysis. What this seems like, let's put politics aside. This seems like a very, very intense and sincere religious man. That's a little different than a politician. Politicians usually pretend to be religious. Good priests, ministers, rabbis, bishops, cardinals, and popes are religious. Are there some that aren't? Yes. This doesn't seem like one of them. This seems like a man. You don't leave the comfort of Chicago and spend your entire adult life in Peru ministering to the poorest of the poor if you're not deeply religious and driven. So let's begin with the fact that we can't analyze him the same way we analyze a greedy, conniving, self-interested politician or businessman. There are other things driving him. And the thing that's driving him is he wants to spread the word of Christ. You may not believe it. He does. It's his whole life. He believes that he was selected by the Holy Spirit to represent Jesus Christ on earth as a successor of Peter. And when you listen to his, I'm trying to get the right word for it. Has my team here come up with the right word? Is it investiture? Ted said it used to be coronation until, imagine if it was coronation, Pope Francis would have gone nuts.
Yeah.
Right? Coronation. Oh my God, that'd have been so elitist. I think it's investiture. Well, let's say investiture. On Sunday, they're going to have the investiture.
Mayor,
Yeah.
as you per usual, you were right once again. So the Pope no longer has a coronation. The last papal coronation took place, as we just said, in 1963 with Pope Paul VI. Since then, papal inaugurations have involved the ceremonial mass where the new Pope is formally installed, but without the coronation ritual. The former investiture now includes the bestowal of the pallium, a white woolen band
Right.
adorned with crosses, which is worn with papal vestments. So we now have a formal investiture.
Now, I wonder if Francis did away with putting the big crown on.
That was earlier, I think.
Big crown, and I think the Pope wears it only once.
Well, are you referring to the papal tiara?
Yeah.
That is actually on display and at Catholic University at the Basilica.
Well, one of them are, yeah.
Well, the original. Well, I actually forgive me for my ignorance, but I was
St. Peter didn't have one.
Oh, sure.
He couldn't have worn one because he was crucified backwards, so it would have fallen off.
But that's the tiara on display at Catholic University at the Basilica.
Now you got to have a hell of a big head to be. I'm sorry.
I think we got to bring it back.
I have to learn how to
looks
talk.
amazing. I think it looks amazing, and it sends
It's
a
thinner. It's
message.
It's quite a bit thinner now. The one that you're seeing now.
Ceremony. This is the 1963 ceremony.
Oh,
Very
wow.
different. Look at those colors.
That was outdoors too. Look.
That does look much more like a royal affair, right? I don't think.
Yeah, well,
they got rid of a lot of the red.
Yeah, think about it. We just saw.
There it is. What is that?
There it is. That's what I'm talking about. That crown.
Yeah.
That's a big crown. Looks like the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that's the one he used to use when he led armies.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Practical.
And then he's lifted. They don't do this anymore either.
No, they don't do this.
With the chair. Now that would be quite interesting.
I seem to remember John Paul did that, and I think John Paul did that. He may have been the last one.
This is from Pope Paul.
Wow, what year would this have been?
62? Was it?
63.
63. But you can see the ancient part of the ceremony here, right?
That's right. Look, see.
So over the years, each pope has simplified it and modernized it.
Right.
So they take out some of the pomp and circumstances. And of course, Francis got it down to the bare minimum.
Right.
Including, like some of the vestments this Pope has already worn, the Pope had never worn.
However, I think that the all white did add an air of holiness.
Well, he wears all white most of the time, but not when he comes out and is announced as the Pope, because in essence, it's also somewhat disrespectful. Those other garments indicate he's the Bishop of Rome, and you'd want to, particularly if you were not an Italian, you'd want to go out of your way to wear that to let the people of Rome know they're going to really have a bishop. You're not some kind of Peruvian, American,
right,
Argentinian, Polish usurper.
So we have a side by side here. This is comparing.
See, there he is. There he is the next day. He's dressed up. Pope. I mean, I can go back to Pope Pius XII dressed that way normally. But when he's being the Pope officially, that's the way he dresses.
Right. And then next to him that's Pope Francis. So this is comparing the two.
Yeah.
When Pope Francis came out
on
in
Sunday,
all white.
he's going to wear something different. He's going to wear vestments because it's a mass.
Oh, all the outfits. So exciting.
Oh, yeah. It's beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful. And some people say it's, too much pomp, too much circumstances.
No.
Other people, it's their way to God. If you're an artistic person, why do you think there's so much religious art? Because, people until recently didn't have photographs. So they had paintings. and the paintings would display the torture of Jesus, or
Well, hey, if we're just
the creation of man.
if we're feeling the room out, I say we double down. Like if we want to make our opinions known, I'd say invest more in some of this pomp and.
Oh, you like the pomp?
Yeah, it's cool. So I'm Lutheran, right? Well, I was raised Lutheran, but I appreciate.
Well, you know,
watching it as
Luther thought he had calmed down the pomp, and then the Puritans went crazy on him because he left too much.
Right.
Oh gosh.
That's how you study the Reformation. It was hilarious. It just got worse and worse and worse. So Henry leaves the Catholic Church, makes minor little changes, during Henry's lifetime, even though he said the mass could be said in English, it was never said in English because Henry wouldn't listen to it in English. It was Elizabeth I who put it in English.
Wow.
I mean, she's the one who really made it a Protestant church. Henry went back and forth. So Henry began by killing Catholics like crazy. Then all of a sudden, when these Protestant groups came along that started to say that he was too popified.
Right.
He was doing all the same things the Pope did, except it was Henry. He went crazy at them and he started killing them. Problem with Henry was he was a really bad guy to found a church because he liked to kill people.
Right.
It's always better to have somebody finding a church who doesn't like killing people. So the point that I think people are coming to now, and I read all of the analysis of the new Pope, because I really want to get a sense of what he's going to do, because it can help a lot. And he can help, not politically. You know, I've told you for how long? I don't know. Ted may remember. Critical to saving our country, and not going to happen if we don't do it, is bring God back. We don't bring God back into this country in the central way in which God was here for the creation of this country. I mean, they say, oh, our founding fathers weren't religious. They were very religious in their own way, in a highly intellectual way. What you're seeing right now is he happens to be a very good tennis player, according to our favorite brother of his, Louis. Louis wouldn't take back his nasty comments about Pelosi,
right,
or the fact that he's MAGA. Pope's brother is MAGA.
So what you're seeing here is the current #1 tennis player in the world. I hope I get this right. Jannik Sinner. His last name is Sinner, Sinner, and he met the Pope today.
Maybe you should go to confession.
The Pope met with a sinner today. And there's the Pope.
Now,
so yes,
you should know that the Pope, it was noted in the biography of him, plays tennis at least once a week, and very often more than that. So he's definitely like golf is to Trump, tennis is to Pope Leo.
Right.
And I think the key to his success is going to be his spirituality. Not political, but does he bring the church back to God? And does he bring people back to God? Even if he brings them back to their religion, not necessarily Catholicism. We need religion. And if you don't believe in religion and you don't believe in God, you need it. You don't need it. Everybody else does. A world where there is substantial, strong religious belief is a much more moral world. Very, very hard, not impossible, but very hard to enforce morality and ethics, which are very, very much voluntary, right?
Right.
Without the central force of a belief in God. It can happen. And also a belief in the afterlife. What the heck creates the incentive, right? Why do you think Muhammad told his warriors that they'd get 72 virgins if they killed for the faith? Because he wanted good warriors. And they were all desert dwellers who were illiterate. So they bought it. They couldn't do arithmetic. How could you have 72 virgins? It's 50% men, 50% women. Where are you going to get the 72 virgins for everybody? But these were simple people, kind of stupid. And they bought it. And there they are fighting, thinking, oh boy, if I get killed, I go get my 72 virgins. They never bothered to ask, does the mathematics make sense? Or as Saturday Night Live once said in one of their funniest skits, nobody ever asked, what do these virgins look like? It could be really the leftovers. Oh, and by the way, I do want to say, and this is not meant as an insult to anybody's religion, it's just a logical comment. With all of the Islamic extremist jihadists that have been killed by Israel recently, there can't be too many left. So I wouldn't count on it. I wouldn't get myself killed for, 72 virgins. I get very disappointed. So what do you think, Ted? You think somebody should straighten this religion out? Like really get rid of, I don't know why I put my Bible away. I did.
Right.
The Bible has a lot of stuff in it. We don't even pay attention to it. Like in the Old Testament, they stoned women. Nobody stones women anymore. Nobody even thinks about it. At least not on our side. They got to just get rid of that stuff.
Right. Of course. And
but they don't.
It's fascinating to see how the American left, and we can think of certain times in the last
American left
20
deifies
years.
the Muslim religion.
Yeah.
And it really is so much different than the Jewish religion and the Catholic religion.
Yet they portray to be the champions of women's rights, right?
Yeah,
or
so
the LGBTQ
this drove me
community.
nuts when I was the mayor. A year before I did this, there was a display in Chicago of Muhammad, and it was Muhammad mass killing a large number of Jewish people because he wanted to take over an olive grove. And in order to create a shock value, he killed like the elders of the tribe, and he mass buried them the way the Nazis did. Now, this is in Islamic literature. Nobody's making this up. There's not a mime, or this is in either the Quran or the Hadith. The Hadith is the secondary commentary on the Quran. So it's their own literature. And a guy did a big painting of it. They threw him out. They closed down the museum. They paid damages. Okay. Within 1 year, at the Brooklyn Museum, there's the Piss Christ and the Virgin Mary with cow dung on her at a New York City museum. The Piss Christ was everybody's pissing on Christ. And the dung was actual cow dung that was restored every 4 days. They brought it into the museum and threw it on the paint. I mean, these people should be put in jail. So we gave $12 million a year to the Brooklyn Museum. New York City did. Now, a year before, I had to protect at one of the museums. I've forgotten which one. The one on Fifth Avenue. I had to protect one of these shocking paintings of Christ where he was having sex or doing something or other. And there was a big demonstration, and of course, there were a lot of people that wanted to beat the living daylights out of the people who did it, and the New York City Police Department protected them. We protected their right to say something horrible about do something horrible about the person we believe is the Son of God, because we believe in the First Amendment. But I'd be damned if I'm going to give $12 million to the cause of putting dung on the Blessed Mother. I mean, I don't think I'd give $12 million that are going to put just dung on the wall. I mean, we don't exactly have museums to throw shit on the wall. So I defunded it. Wow. The New York Times said I was a Neanderthal. I was against free speech. I say, you don't understand free speech. I'm in favor of free speech. I defended the idiots that were in a private museum. But now you're in a public place, and you're using public money. And if you use public money, you have to be guided by the prevailing public morals. And I'm not an automaton. I don't just give out the money with no judgment. You just can't take the money from me. I have to be able to make a judgment about it. And if I'm in office for a while, you got to be stuck with my judgments. put some communist here and he'll let you do anything you want, as they did. And man, it was ridiculous. And now I'm going to tell you, you want to learn about New York City? So I went down, like when they say I was very unpopular before September 11, that was the main reason I was unpopular. I was down to like 38% approval rating in the city. Up until then, it had been well over 50%. I got elected by one of the biggest margins a Republican ever was elected by, a landslide.
Right.
But now, do you know what I was in the suburbs? Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester, Bergen County.
I'd be willing to bet
70%
in the 80s, or yeah,
70%. And because totally different. And we went to court, and they won. I had to give them the money because it was a New York Democratic court that was fixed. That's a totally undefensible, intellectually dishonest opinion. I am required to protect you in your right of free speech. I am not required to contribute to your viewpoint. And I think the Supreme Court has now straightened that out. And, but that's part of how we've gotten away from God and decency. And even if you're an atheist, you should be practical enough to know if enough people believe in God, they're going to be good people. Now, you may think they're opiate of the people and whatever, but it keeps them under control when they do really well.
And the healing power of prayer itself, for those who believe, and the benefit that they get from it is such a net benefit to society that it should be an encouragement.
Also, the analysis makes a really fine. Why do you think? I'm going to get way off the point here. Why do you think Jewish people are such good lawyers?
I know.
What a joke. I mean, that's a big joke, right? I want a Jewish lawyer. I want a Jewish lawyer.
They do law school growing up, basically.
It's the analysis of the Torah that they start with when they're about 7 years old.
Which is essentially a law school,
Which
right?
is essentially a legal analysis. They learned the Socratic method at 7 years old.
I love my
I went to
Orthodox
NYU,
friends.
and NYU had a large number of Jewish kids who went to Hebrew schools. And I had to really catch up with them. I learned memorization. They learned analysis. They learned the Socratic method, which is what is used in law school. My roommate was fabulous at it. You're the Jewish guy from Columbia. He was fabulous at it.
And that's how you think, how you analyze.
Yeah, and so these guys spend all day. You know what the Hasidic Jews do when they go to the shul? They sit there and they analyze like a little point of law all day. What did Moses mean when he said? And there'll be three people that say one thing, and three people say another, three people say another. And so now that you say, well, gee, what does that do? That's like, what practical value? Well, by the time they do this for 10 years, they have unbelievably sharp analytical minds. And then you apply it to when we agreed to turn over 30 cows that were in good condition. What do we mean by good condition? Because I'm suing you because I don't think they were in good condition. And I think they were in good condition. You want a Jewish lawyer because he could spin them all around forever.
Sounds exactly like a contracts class that I sat through. You know?
But those Jewish kids who were in the contract class with you, when they went to Hebrew school, were doing that since they were 12.
Yep.
And you've been doing it since the day you end up in the contract class.
That's why they're always welcome in the study group. So I went to Catholic law school, right? So like we had some Jews, but they were always welcome in the study group.
You know, like Fordham Law School has a lot of Jewish students.
Yeah.
That's the Jesuit law school.
Yeah, well, and we had one Jewish professor for criminal law, and he did bring up sort of the Judeo-Christian foundation, Abrahamic, if you want to call it that, of the laws as he would go through it. He would bring his big horn in and blow it at the Catholic University.
The shofar?
Yes.
He used to blow it?
Oh, yeah.
You got to have it.
And we celebrated it, too. And we had a couple of – our securities law professor was also Jewish. And the school got mad.
Not very good.
Our Jewish securities law professor our Jewish securities law professor would always light the tree, and then the church found out about it.
What tree?
The Christmas tree. And they sent
Hanukkah
someone.
bush?
See, it was kind of a joke, but then they've sent officially someone from the church to light our tree when they found out that we were having the Jewish guy light the tree.
Well, here I want to start a discussion. Do I have to take a break or don't I?
We're
You see,
good on breaks.
Do you notice? Do you notice behind him? We have a very wonderful small audience today,
Yeah.
and I want to ask him a question. Do you notice behind Ted there's a boxing glove? That's there. If I don't perform properly, he hits me with it. He takes it and he hits me on top of the head with it.
Do it.
Tell him who it's from.
This is from Thomas the Hitman Hearns.
And
Oh
he,
yeah, as if either.
and he brought it.
Yeah.
He brought it here for me. I used to be a boxer.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a big one. Thomas the Hitman Hearns, Detroit, Michigan.
And my father wasn't. I was just an average boxer. My father was an excellent boxer, and I'll tell you all those stories sometime. I grew up going to the when it was boxing 4 nights a week in New York, 3 nights a week. The main one that you would know about is Madison Square Garden on Friday nights because it was on television. But we also had the Eastern Parkway Arena in Brooklyn. We had the Sunnyside Garden in Queens. We had the Armory in the Bronx. And of course, Madison Square Garden in Manhattan. The really main ones were the Sunnyside Garden, I believe was on a Tuesday night. And so Sunnyside Gardens is Queens. It's the area, I think AOC represents that area now. She wouldn't have then. Boy, oh boy. That was basically an Irish area. And the fighters there were Irish fighters. Irish, that's who I fought all the time, Irish fighters. Then if you went further out into Brooklyn along Eastern Parkway, the Eastern Parkway Arena is kind of heading to Jamaica. It's still there, but it's not used for boxing anymore. And then on Friday night, the best ones had come to the Garden for the Friday night fights of the week, sponsored by Gillette, the Gillette Razor Company. So New York had an unbelievable amount of boxing. I mean, there were, so imagine, let's say at least 10 cards, each 10, 20, 30 boxing matches of fairly major proportions per week. And of course, that's declined now into this thing that they have. And this is a little difference between me, and please, all the friends of the president, don't get angry at me. It's extreme boxing. I don't get it. I don't get it.
It's beautiful.
The markers are
combined everything.
Nothing more beautiful than a boxing match guided by the Marcus of Queensberry rules.
Well, that's what. Well, we're getting off track, but
You know
King,
something? I'm going to tell you the truth. If I got him alone and I sat him in a room, the president would agree with me because he grew up like I did, going to those boxing matches. I used to go with him all the time.
Did you know Don King?
I knew Don King really well. Evolved in a different way, though. Remember, I was the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. And who was alleged to be the biggest rat against Don King?
Who was the biggest rat?
Alleged. I'm not saying he was. I'm not allowed to. I'm not going to say he was.
I'm going to guess.
The non-Reverend Al Sharpton.
I was going to say, I wanted to guess Al Sharpton.
Yeah, the non-Reverend Al Sharpton.
You've known Al Sharpton for the non-Reverend.
I know Al Sharpton since he was 15 years old.
Rev Al. That's what they call him on
reverend.
MSNBC. The Rev.
He's not a reverend.
Rev Al.
He's never gone to a seminary. I don't think he's graduated from college. He certainly has never graduated from a seminary. He hasn't been, I don't know if a minister is ordained or invested or whatever, but he's never been made a minister except in some phony ceremony. How about he's never had a church?
Yeah, I thought you'd have a.
What kind of reverend doesn't have a church? I could say Reverend Giuliani. That's what he did.
That's what he did. That's Reverend.
So I want to ask a question. This is really important because everybody's talking about it. And I don't think they should. I think it's like it's an issue, but it's a minor issue. But whenever anything involves Trump, or what do you think about the big? Can we put a picture up of the big airplane? You got a picture of the big airplane?
Yeah, we'll get that up. While we bring that up.
I don't even like this airplane, by the way.
You don't like it? I think.
It's not as sleek as Air Force One. Then I want you to put up Air Force One.
So here's the new plane. We have
the new plane looks like a big fat plane.
It's like
the other plane looks like a nice sleek.
Right. So here's.
I think a big fat plane would have a hard maneuver. Bulge there at the top. You guys want to come over and just take a look at it? Look at it. It's a big bulge there.
That's like a lounge area.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I know it's a lounge area, but I don't think it's as aerodynamic as.
So, I know what you're going to ask.
I have the benefit of a modest amount of education on aerodynamics. So whatever you do, you think you're an expert. But I always thought of aerodynamics as sleek. You know, you slide through the air. This is like a big boat going through the air. This guy's not going to be able to maneuver the way Air Force One can maneuver.
We'll have to see.
So if the president really wants this, he's going to have to talk to me. I'm not sure that's a. I'm not going to say it's an unsafe plane, but for the kind of thing you want to use it for, Air Force One, where God forbid it may have to be very maneuverable, that does not look like a very maneuverable airplane.
In their defense, it is hard to make a jet equipped with the requirements of Air Force One that's very highly maneuverable and agile.
Well, that's why Boeing keeps failing at it. And Boeing didn't make that as an Air Force One. It made it as a luxury plane. I prefer to get one Boeing made as an Air Force One. Air Force One is a very special kind of plane. The damn thing has to turn into an evasive aircraft to protect the president. Do you see that thing floating, going around like this and that? Look at it. It's a big boat. Air Force One is a beautiful, sleek plane.
But we have other jets that can kind of come to the aid fast.
Yeah, but not do any good if they're shooting at that one. The other planes can't come to the aid and take the bullets.
So you think our current Air Force One is just so much more maneuverable than this one?
I don't like the fact that our current Air Force One is 30 years old.
People make fun of it. They say it looks like an 80s office. But I don't know. I think it's beautiful. I think it's iconic.
Now, I am a amateur expert, so I could be all wrong. That does not look to me like a very well-designed evasive aircraft. Can you put up Air Force One next to it?
I got you.
Look at that. Look how sleek that is. Look at the difference between that sleek airliner that does have two levels, right? I don't know. It may be 30 years old, but it seems to me, and you got to talk to a pilot that's more than just somebody who took,
but with a paint job,
6 months of lessons in the ROTC.
An engineer. I'm guessing that thing's, they've worked on the aerodynamics of it. Right?
Okay. That one on the right, I don't care how old it is, looks a lot more maneuverable than the big fat thing on the left.
Looks can be deceiving.
I don't know. I think I just like the new one and the old one.
I had to use that. Look, so Mayor, what is the concern with us? And let's ignore the fake Democrat outrage. Right? They get outraged over anything Trump does. But even from the Republicans,
I agree 100%.
Yeah. But even from conservatives and card-carrying Republicans, we're hearing some concerns. If the president were to take this plane on behalf of the U.S. government, and let's say it was used in a different way, maybe not as Air Force One, would you have any concerns with that? So we take the plane, the U.S. takes the plane.
Well,
it's used by the federal government. Who knows? Maybe we transport.
First of all, I think it's not quite much ado about nothing, but much ado about almost nothing. So, yeah, I agree that the only thing I'm thinking about is defensive politics. Why give them that? Why let them have this to pound you with?
You see, you haven't flown in it yet. I know. Well, I know where you stand on it. Just think it'd be really nice. What if we used it to deport people?
Oh, I like that.
Hey, compromise.
Yeah.
It deports people half the time.
Particularly if it has a big bay where we could give. My original recommendation was rejected.
Yeah.
Because it was inhumane. It was to take them all, give them parachutes, and show them how to use it on the spot.
Well, and you wanted boats. You wanted big boats at what, like those rubber boats?
Boats too, but I wanted parachutes. I wanted to take them to Venezuela when Morales didn't want to take them back, or Maduro didn't want to take them back, and I wanted to fly them in on one of our big transports, surrounded by jets, and then just tell them, okay, you're going out. Just throw them out of the plane and show them. You just pull here. All you have to do is pull here, and when you go down, be very, very supple in the way you hit the ground. Don't tense up. If you don't tense up, you won't break your legs. That's all you have to know. The other is just fear factor. You get over it halfway through.
Have you ever what's the have you
These
ever
guys are all
have you ever
tough.
gone? Yeah.
They're all tough, like 18 to 25. They're not going to have heart attacks. We're not throwing old men out.
Some of them might even have military training, to be
And
honest
if
with you.
we lose a couple of them, so there's a few less women that get raped.
You ever jumped, Mayor? I think
Yep.
that's what Ted was going to ask
I
you.
didn't ever jump, but I did do rappelling.
Oh, that's fun too.
I did rappelling with the fire department. They taught me how to rappel, and they said it has very much the same feeling that you have to get over when you jump, which is the first time you go out and all you have are the wires, and it's like a way.
Do you have an auto rappel? Like it was.
Yeah.
You didn't have to self-belay yourself down. Oh, that's fun. That's a fun time.
Then I did it with only one wire and had to do it myself.
Oh, yeah, that's the more.
You know why I
tricky
did
part.
it? Have any idea why I did? I wasn't going to go. I was going to go rescue people. I mean, I was always very, very interested in that because my uncle was in the emergency services for 17 years. He took 3 people down from the top of the Brooklyn Bridge. I have his last medal.
Oh, right.
I have his last medal, which his daughter gave to me, which was given to him by Mayor Koch.
Right.
He took people down from the top of the Brooklyn Bridge. He also used to do rappelling and take people. If they're hanging out a window, he would come down and take you out. And he showed me a lot about how you do it. And it's, I'll tell you what it is. It's very frightening the first time you do it. Very frightening the second time you do it. But the third time you do it is the most fun of anything you do in your life. Once you get confident in your team and in the wires, it's like parachuting. Once you get confident in the fact that there are about 3 ways for that parachute to open, and I mean, how often does the parachute just not open? Once every 5 years?
And you have a backup most of the time.
Yeah, well, you're going to die somehow. So
Yeah, I want a bungee jumping too. We are getting way off track, actually.
we are. So what do you think of the aircraft? I want to know. I know my view of it. I know there is slight difference of opinion. So I would like to see if I can have the two of you speak. Then I'm going to take a break. I see I encourage some of our wonderful guests to tell us what they think of the president right now. I think the offer on the table is they're going to give him the government of Qatar is going to give to him a $400 million Boeing plane that is perfectly able, they say, to be configured very quickly as an Air Force One. So right away you say, well, maybe not. But here's on the other side. He has a 30-year-old Air Force One. That's dangerous. The 2 Air Force Ones that were one was contracted for by Obama, who was president, when we were still in the jungles, I think. And now, and then so neither one of them is ready, is the point. And they may not be ready until the very end of his presidency. They were supposed to be ready for about halfway through Biden's presidency. But Jerkball never did anything about it because he didn't even know he was president. How would he know about Air Force One?
Right.
So is it a dangerous plane? I can't say that. But most people are not riding around in 30-year-old planes, or maybe more. So they're not going to get one to him for bare minimum 2 years. So should he take this plane, which it could be configured in a month, and be safer flying around in it for the next 2 years? And then his plan is, they say one of the possibility they'll give it to his library, similar to the way they gave Reagan an Air Force One for his library, which I was part of because I was in the Reagan board. Helped to get that.
But that one doesn't fly, you were saying.
But that doesn't fly.
Well-
that's a different, it's been decommissioned.
I think it's important to keep things into context. Boeing and Qatar Airways just today agreed to a contract. It's actually Boeing's largest contract ever for their wide-bodied planes. Qatar is going to be buying 210 large Boeing jets, and I think it's split up among a couple of their sizes.
Nobody realizes what this does for our economy.
And so, if the president
Wow,
is
what a great thing.
I don't think at the time the president doesn't want to just straight up reject the offer, right? Knowing that this ongoing negotiations with a proud legacy American company like Boeing is being worked out with Qatar's government-controlled airlines, the president's gonna take it, right? At least from anything we know about the president and his negotiating style, right? That's the right move on its face up front. I think if we take the plane, Mayor, we take the plane and it's used in some capacity by the federal government, not necessarily as Air
First, he
Force One.
invites us for a ride.
Of course, the president's going to invite
That will help
us for a
change
ride.
our opinion. We're not.
We have to test. We'll take
We're
it for a
not
test
completely
drive.
unrealistic.
Right.
We're unable to be influenced.
Right. Well,
And then we'll test it out as a deportation plane as
No, we
well.
I just want to. Okay. So,
And then
but the point being, I keeping this in the context, knowing President Trump as the ultimate deal maker that he is, I figured there was something else going on. We find out today.
You never know.
Boeing and Qatar just inked a huge, massive deal.
So you think
At the time, he's not going to.
you think he encouraged that deal?
Right.
I'm sure he did.
Right.
Well,
Right. Does that make sense
Yeah,
to
sure.
you?
If he found out about it, he would. He would encourage it. That would be his.
Right. And so,
His-
you're,
and it's a
when
good
you're working
marketing
out
He's
that
sitting there-
deal, you're not.
He's sitting there adding up 1.2 trillion from them. Right now, somebody else is at like that plane is worth about 400 bill. So he's going to want to get more out of Qatar than that. He can get a lot more than 400 out of Qatar. And Dubai is a little different. Dubai's not as
210
rich.
Boeing jets.
What?
Right. We
Yeah.
got 210 Boeing
Yeah.
planes at a time when
You want me to
Boeing
come
sold
here.
a deal for
at a
it.
time when Boeing is hurting, right?
I remember
and
when he used to
competing with Airbus.
negotiate. I remember he used to negotiate for speaking fees.
Right. Mayor Giuliani, the number one, maybe number two. There's a between him and Colin Powell, the number one
Yeah.
speaker at the Washington Speakers Bureau. I'm going to say it because the mayor's not going to say it.
But he was fabulous at negotiating. When I would speak with him, I loved it because he would negotiate a price way up. I would make much more money.
Who?
Trump. I did a lot of. I did about 6 speeches with Trump.
Really? How would that work? Would you guys go up there together?
People would
and bounce off
invite.
each
People
other?
would invite the two of us, and the Washington Speakers Bureau said, "Do you want us to negotiate?" They let Trump negotiate.
Yes. Oh, I want him on my side always.
I think that one of the reasons we elected him president, right? And
Yeah.
the American people saw that. But that's interesting. Now, I want to get my hands on one of those speeches. We gotta get
Sure.
some video
I could probably repeat them from my head.
yeah.
Just get me in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a short break. We're going to be right back, and then we're going to go right to soccer time so we can let you go to sleep. Okay? But we got U.S. Army.
Go ahead.
We got to get you the information that they keep from you. That's what I have here. What I have here is the information you're not going to find in the communist press that cuts it all out. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers. Oh, come on.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax, channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with you on America's Mayor Live. Soccer time. You know, it's about time because we haven't done it in a while if we define what we mean by soccer time.
Right.
So this developed when we began as a sports program doing Yankee games. And when we would go over our allotted time, we would say it was like soccer. Now, here's what drives me crazy about soccer. They insist on calling it football. And even though my son is the director of FIFA for the United States, I refuse to submit to calling it football. Even though I admit it has much more to do with the feet than our football does. But it's just obstinance, that's all. And America first stupidity. But the reality is soccer time drives me nuts. I have come to like soccer, particularly in person. Here's one thing I don't like. They end the game and they have a bunch of penalties that are stored up. So they're going to play another 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 2 minutes, 4 minutes. They don't tell anybody. There's no thing on the board, 10 minutes to go. So now I'm a soccer player. I want to know how to judge how fast I go down. When do I take a real chance? That's when a quarterback, look, I never penalize quarterbacks for interceptions in a Hail Mary situation or even in a tight situation where you got to get the ball in the end zone, you got two seconds left on the clock. Well, you can't worry about whether it's going to get intercepted, right? I think that interception should be kept separate from a regular interception in the middle of the game because it's an interception caused by circumstances. In soccer, you don't know the time. So I'm running back and forth on the field. I don't know how fast to run. I mean, I may put a goal in, and between the time I hit it and the time it hits the goal, the game's over. And that's happened. People got killed. I don't remember if it was part of the World Cup that I had in '94, but the Colombian goalie in an overtime let in a goal that took Colombia out of the World Cup. So he went back to Colombia. I was doing security in Colombia then. He went back to Colombia and, I couldn't have been. No, so I did security later to try to find out his murderer. So he's coming out of a bar. Everybody's patting on the back or people are booing him. And all of a sudden, somebody shoots him. They shot and killed him because he let the winning goal in. So when the World Cup comes to America, you're going to have something very special. Wow. So now we have overtime. We never know when it ends.
Well, do you want to hear
soccer time?
Usually it ends when, like, if I have to go on Greg Kelly's show or somebody calls in and complains and says, shut up or something like that. Yeah. Or sometimes we get like, don't stop. Those are the ones we really like.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Let me show you this though, really quick.
Soccer fans from all over the globe. I don't know if I'm supposed to say soccer or football because every time I say soccer, Baron and Eric say you're really saying it wrong. It's supposed to be football.
No, it's
but
soccer.
Has
Andrew come out with a position on this yet?
Yes, Andrew's position. You got to call it soccer.
Oh,
Yes.
I knew he'd have it
Yeah.
right. I knew he'd get it right.
Come
That's
on, the
smart
kid's
move.
America first.
Yeah. That's
What
soccer.
kind of
It's
kid
not
do you think I brought up?
Yeah. You're right.
I mean, actually, I did not bring him up on his political beliefs. I let him have his own political beliefs. Let him have all of his own beliefs. And my daughter, who is on the other side.
Politically.
Blame Harvard.
One thing I require. Oh, I want my money back.
Amen.
One thing I required. I told my son, if you're not a Yankee fan, I'll kill you.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you don't have to worry about
That's
that.
pretty
man.
Old Testament of you.
And he was there, boy. He was said,
Well, he was-
okay,
he was
that's
treated-
not gonna be tough.
It also helped that he grew up in the 90s.
Yeah,
He lucked
no,
out. With
but
the
it
Yankees
really
in
was
that,
I mean, he was born in '86, so he even Mattingly was his hero. 15. Whenever we went to the stadium, even during the Jeter era, he would wear 15.
Don Mattingly, who we saw not too long ago.
He loved Don Mattingly. Loved him. Well, so did I.
Yeah.
Don Mattingly was a great
Real
guy.
baseball player. Was he the manager too?
He was a manager somewhere, not the
here.
Yankees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
So with the airplane we've exhausted, we're not going to talk about it anymore because there's a bunch of.
good. You're not.
So
Well-
do you know in a little place called Texas, a little place called Texas, there are a group of Tron Diagua people who are lining up and they're saying, send us back to Venezuela. Like they don't want to contest it. They just want to go back to Venezuela. So I think we should just put them on a plane and say, Maduro, these guys like you. They want to come back. They probably make great communist agents. Take them. We don't want them anymore. Anybody we can get rid of, it's going to be an impossible task to get rid of all of the illegals he let in. If you do it based on the rules that are kind of emerging from the left-wing judges. Like they say, everybody should get a due process hearing. 12 million people?
And our courts aren't busy
12
enough.
million due process hearings? Are you kidding? I mean, do you know what the average number of deportations from the biggest city in America was all the time I was U.S. attorney, associate attorney in charge, mayor? Somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 a year. Now, you got 12 million illegals. You're not going to make much of a dent at 1,500 and 2,000 a year. So we got to make a decision. Either these people are entitled to the full panoply of due process or they're not. And there's nothing in the Constitution that says they are. In fact, I'm not sure they're even entitled. I'm not sure the original Supreme Court decision saying they're entitled to any due process. But they leave it very ambiguous. The Supreme Court says, if you're a citizen, you're entitled to full due process. If you're a non-citizen but legal, you're entitled to due process, not quite the same. Ambiguous, like lawyers love to leave it. Finally, if you're an illegal, you're entitled to almost no due process, but a little bit. What's the little bit?
I think the general laws bestowed on us by God, like we can't torture an illegal immigrant.
Oh, fine. That's great. Nobody wants to torture anybody.
Yeah.
I just want to get rid of these people. I don't want to torture them. You think it's torturing them if I put them in parachutes and drop them?
No, that's fun. I paid to do that.
So the Trans-Diagua people in Texas have gone and protested, and they want to just be sent back. They don't want to go through any of this. And you know what they are? They're afraid of going into the prison in El Salvador, which was brilliant. It was people don't know how smart this guy is. Nobody comes in anymore. We went from an average of 12,000 a month to 70. And the 70, we send them all back. The 12,000, we kept most of them. Because they're scared out of their minds. And these people who are demonstrating in Texas, they want to go back because they don't want to end up in El Salvador. They want to go back and see, they're a bunch of communists, and they want to see if Maduro slipped them over here to try to destroy us. Now they figure that he owes them something. We'll see. Communists are not terribly loyal. So there was a big demonstration in Texas by the Trans-Diagua people saying, don't put us through hearings. Just send us back. We're ready to go back.
Just go back. I feel like almost ripped off paying for these plane tickets, honestly. They should, who gives them their free spring break in America?
Maduro may object because his crime rates have gone down like 70%.
Oh, yeah.
He just sent all his criminals here. They're killing us, they're raping us, but not the Venezuelans. Well, this I loved. You know who Hannah Dugan is?
Yes.
Hannah Dugan is the judge in Wisconsin who assisted the illegal alien. And what was he specifically charged with in her court? Beating his wife or girlfriend, that's always ambiguous in these situations, with a stick 30 times. And then turning around, hitting his child. And then hitting the cops when they came for him. So he gets arrested locally in Milwaukee County, which has a bunch of wacko, weirdo, pinko, crazy, stupid, liberal, left-wing non-judges, one of whom is named Hannah Dugan. Hannah Dugan, there's Hannah. There you go. There's old Hannah. Man, I will say nothing.
Is that a Ukrainian flag?
Nice I saw the strategy there.
I will make no cheap comment at this point. Do you notice there's a
We
priest?
will not.
Now, I want to point out, I would like to go see the Pope with a whole bunch of material. I'd like to point out there's a priest behind her. Now, here's what she did. She's a judge in the court, okay? She finds out that Eduardo Flores Ruiz is being charged with beating his girlfriend with a stick 30 times and then beating up the people around, including the police officer and his mother-in-law. That's the charge in Chicago. She also finds out that he's an illegal alien and has been for some period of time. I'm not sure she knows exactly the scope of it. But this guy came in, got thrown out, and then came in when we never saw him. You don't know, I do. You don't know about the never saw him people, because the Biden people very carefully changed the categories. They created just 2, not 3 categories. Category 1, people you stop at the border and you either send them back, put them in detention, or put them out on bail. They put everybody out on bail. Trump puts them all in detention or throws them out. I mean, to a ridiculous point. We're down by 99.9%. So that's category 1. That group is about 8 million people that got through. And that's a hell of a lot of people. Then we have the gotaways. The gotaways are the people that we don't catch. Like when all the people are coming in, right? They run away. So we write down one ran away. Sometimes we have his name is Jose. His name is Jose Reyes. We have something on him, right? Okay. So you take that's 2 million people that came in under Demented Joe. So now we're up to 10 million people. Okay. Now there's a third one they leave out because they're liars. And because this is why this show exists, to tell you about this. So you would never know about it. They're called people we never see. And you know about it because in a number of these cases that we've described to you, because Ted and I have been on this for 2 years, there are people that have been expelled to the United States. They've come back into the United States, and they will tell you, we don't know how the person got back in. That means they weren't in the intercepted group, and they weren't in the gotaway group. You know what they were in? They were in that group in the 50-mile, 80-mile, 90-mile gap between customs stations, which the cartels operate like geniuses. And that's where they bring in their most dangerous people. That's where your fentanyl comes in. Your fentanyl doesn't come in any place we can seize it. It comes in the gaps between where we have enforcement. And the more people that are coming in the gaps, or the more people that are coming in at the stations, the more people that are coming in at the gaps. So I'm going to use analysis that goes back to when people would analyze this honestly. And they would say that if you look at the number of people we can identify, depending on how good our enforcement is, it could range from 50% to 200% that come in and we don't know who the hell they are. So 50% would be 15 million people came in, 5 million of whom we have no idea who they are. They're showing up all the time. Now, 200%, I don't even want to think about that. Please understand that the number of people who came in at Ellis Island over a 70-year period were 12 million people, all of whom were vetted, carefully examined, and sent back if they had a problem. These people were never vetted. Nobody knows what their problems are. We just found a guy we let in 2 years ago who was wanted for 4 murders in Venezuela. I don't know. He's been here for 2 years. Did he murder anybody? How would you know? Nobody even knew he was here. So this has to be fixed, and it needs extraordinary means to do it so we can have a relatively safe country. And I really would love to sit down with the Pope, who seems to have his biggest problem against us on immigration policy, to tell him, Pope, when you left America in 1985, the nature of the illegal immigrant was very different than in the last 4 years. I dealt with both. Back in the 80s, the illegal immigrant was largely a person or a woman looking for work with some percentage of drug dealers, criminals who snuck in with them. It's reversed completely. The nature of the illegal immigrant now is the guy who is the terrorist, the drug trafficker, the human trafficker, the guy who wants to have welfare, and not the guy who wants to work. It's a different mix of people. And that's why we've got so many of them that are committing crimes. And what are you doing protecting them? You're getting your innocent Catholic people killed. But okay. It's very nice that Hannah Dugan is being indicted for helping a illegal get away from proper law enforcement. It's about time one of these local people gets prosecuted for violating federal law. Quick. Everybody makes fun of Trump because he wants to take Greenland. Do you know that below Greenland, it was discovered this summer, there's an entire nuclear base? We built it in 1959. We closed it in 1968. And we somehow was off the map. One of our surveillance planes went over and they noticed all this stuff below the ground. So it occasioned, looking back, during the height of the Cold War, we had 17 bases on Greenland. We had 10,000 troops. And we had this new base that was to launch intermediate ballistic missiles intended to hit Russia if they hit us, or to stop them from hitting us. It's not there now. It's buried below 100 feet of snow. We almost forgot about it. Now, remember I told you, we used to have 10,000 troops and 17 bases. You know what we have now? One base, 200 troops. You think we're protected? You think they're protected? And do you understand why Trump is doing what he's doing? Remember when the Malaysian airline went down in 2014, shot down by Ukraine, said Russia? It was at the height of when Russia was invading Ukraine. It takes years to find out these things. Well, I mean, it didn't take me. Russia shut it down. It's terrible. They killed all those people from Malaysia because they thought it was a Ukrainian aircraft. This is why they're such damn animals. I'm glad you're showing that. This is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. There's got to be a way to conduct relations with Putin and just say to him, I've met Putin twice, and I have no problem like setting the relationship straight. I did it with Bush before President Trump. Bush had said that Putin had something in his eyes that suggested that he was a good man or believed in God. And he came to ground zero when I was the mayor. And he came with an entourage of about 100 people. And I wanted to take him down to show him, and everybody did. Henry Kissinger, who said it was worse than Berlin, the president of France, he didn't want to go down. I could look in his eyes. I knew his background as a KGB killer. And I've dealt with a lot of killers. And then I met him again after the Chechnya incident in Russia. The man's an absolutely stone cold killer. Smart as hell. Charming as hell. But if you don't keep yourself focused, this guy, if it were worth it, would kill me. He's probably done it. I never killed anybody. I doubt that Trump ever killed anybody. Couldn't have, right? This guy killed people. And he doesn't mind if he does. That's why he's letting this thing carry on. He's just killing all kinds of Ukrainians. And he's gotten 1 million of his own troops killed. Totally ridiculous. To take over Ukraine, he lost 1 million people. The guy's a carnivore. So let's get a little tougher with him, huh? The White House has knocked 450 million more off Harvard. Keep going. There's a lot more to go. Right. Jake Tapper's book, I will not even mention. I don't want you to buy. Maybe I do. I want you to buy it or not. It points out that Biden was completely out of his effing mind for the entire presidency. And the question to be asked in this book, which is why it's not, we all know that. We don't need Jake Tapper to tell us that. Why did you cover it up, Jake? And exactly who else covered it up that knew it? I mean, Jill Biden, was she like feeding him his ice cream? The Secret Service, were they pulling him out of the grass when he fell down?
Jake Tapper in 2020, we got him right here.
Yeah, I mean, this is...
When they see you make a comment like that.
It's very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You have no... I can't... That's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline. President Biden embraces his stutter, talking about it, while Trump mocks it, exaggerates it, belittles it. He's sharp physically. I mean, mentally. Yeah. I think the question is physically, right?
Right.
More so?
Right.
Right. And the guy who's his chief opponent is only 3 or 4 years younger than him.
Exactly.
I mean, you have questioned President Biden's age, mental fitness, ability to lead. Of those supporting Biden, you said, quote, shame on all of you pretending everything is okay. You're leading us and him into a disaster. Do you worry that you damaged him at all? I don't doubt that you got hugs and handshakes behind closed doors today, and maybe even publicly, some of them because they like you personally. But I've heard a lot of really nasty stuff about you from your Democratic colleagues. Sure. I mean, just like, what is he thinking? Exercise in narcissism. I mean, false claims to the Wall Street Journal about President Biden's mental fitness and acuity. He's 81.
I mean, we just did that as an example of the brainwashing you have been subjected to for 20 years by a son of a bitch like that. That's a really bad guy. And I ask you to read Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book about how he's even corrupt with the pharmaceutical industry. But I'm going to tell you an incident I had with him, and then maybe I should get rid of the other little items here. Here's something I really like. In the Trump beautiful, wonderful, great big bill, they have a 401k for babies. That's right. The moment your kid is born, you can put $5,000 a month in the bank, tax-free, and let it grow. That's great. That's great. Now, if you can't do $5,000, you can do $1,000 or $500 or $25. Tax-free. And they won't touch it until the kid takes it out when he's 21 or 22 or 25 or who knows what it'll be by then. And you're going to put it into the market, which, as you've seen, if you just stay with the market, you just stay with the market, you're going to get rich. The market is back to where it was before Trump announced the tariffs. Everybody who lost money, back again. Happens all the time. This is a great idea. Now, this is not a Republican idea. Come on. There's nothing. Parents of every baby with a Social Security number born from the beginning of 2025 and the end of 2028 get a one-time credit of $1,000. So they're going to get an extra $1,000 to put in, but they can put up to $5,000, tax-free. So your kid is born, you put $5,000 in a bank. Then the next year you put $5,000 in a bank. Then the next year you put and you put it into a 401k investment account. Or put it in gold. What do you think it's going to be after 20 years? Well, if we don't elect dodos like Biden or communists, the kid will be rich before he starts. And then just make sure he works anyway. So Rubio is headed off to Turkey. Here's the real question we're going to have to be on alert for tomorrow.
Right.
Is Trump going?
Ooh, is he
Now,
going?
I would say Trump is going if he thinks Trump, I shouldn't call him, the president will make that decision. That'll tell you something about how successful it's going to be. He's not going to waste his time if they're just going to be boop, 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 boop. He's going to go if he can close it.
Right.
So we'll see.
Right. We'll see. And we'll see if Putin shows up and Zelensky, if they're both there, maybe the president.
I actually think he's pissed that Putin didn't show up.
Oh, Putin is not there.
Putin is doing a very good job of getting Trump angry at him. And it's going to, at some point, it's going to all blow.
Yeah.
That's the way it happens.
Well,
that's the way it happens. So this has been so far, almost like it's a full week. And here we are Wednesday, right?
It's just Wednesday, Mayor. So much news. Too much winning.
No,
president used to say that.
There's too much work to be done.
Right.
And that's what's driving Donald J. Trump. He knows he's got 4 years. He knows he's got a country that's in terrible trouble of turning into just another European crap country that China will take advantage of.
Right.
And with the history of this country and the unbelievable obligation that we have for what we've been given, he's one of the few people, not one of the few, he's one of the people that understands his obligation. And he's driven by it. He's not going to stop. Have you ever, the guy came off the plane, flew all the way from America, and the first thing he does is go into a parade.
Right.
He's an animal, a good animal.
Works 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Just like us.
Unlike Biden.
He worked half a day a week, a couple hours a week.
Yeah. Most of that
and
was
even
eating,
that was, yeah.
Even that was eating ice cream.
Yeah.
It was like anti-work. It was kind of going the other way, moving us backwards.
Are you going to read? Is anybody here going to read the Jake Tapper book about how demented Biden was, just for the hell of it?
I think. Okay, I'll answer. We got a shy audience tonight. I think so. I think I'm going to read it just to see what sources.
So we can have fun.
Yeah.
You have some good stories for the air.
You might have a couple good sources.
You know, I remember a story about him very early from the Secret Service when they were ratting on him that he got lost in the bushes. He started walking around the White House and he went in the bushes, near the side of the White House.
Yeah.
They couldn't find him. And they thought he was hiding there. Like he didn't want to come out and be president.
Oh yeah.
I kind of want to.
You know how often he fell on the stairs? You have any idea how often he fell on the stairs? They were very, very worried. The book does reveal this. These are the excerpts I've seen. The book reveals that they got a wheelchair for him because they were very afraid he was falling so often. Ultimately, he was going to break his leg or his spine, we saw the few falls. Apparently, at the White House, he was half the time falling and they're picking him up off the ground. And I think Jill got tired of feeding him.
Yeah.
Jill at the end looked like she was looking for somebody else.
Right.
She used to look at Newsom and
Kamala.
Stephen. Be careful. We get in a lot of trouble there with that.
Oh, whatever.
You know, we gotta be somewhat careful. Well, so we'll be back tomorrow, right?
God willing.
We've got a very complete show tonight. I must say, Donald Trump takes a day and he does what Biden would do in a year, except he does it effectively. And the degradation of him is an indictment of the moral character now of a certain number of our people, which we've got to change. We've got to just be fair and honest and decent. We got to get America back to that because we weren't that. And that's why God being back with us is so important. I don't care if you believe in God or not. You're better off if most people do. I hope you understand that. Okay. So pray for the people in Israel. Man, they're facing annihilation every day. Pray for the people in Ukraine who are being sacrificed needlessly. There's no reason at all for any more killing in Ukraine until we reach a solution. Putin, just stop killing people, huh? God, do you retain anything of that Eastern Orthodox religion? Anything, just a little piece. And in Iran, there's no choice, Mr. President. You're going to have to take out their nuclear facilities. They can't sign. You can't accept an agreement signed by them. And the people of America, let's pray for our president. Let's pray that he makes the wise decisions and that he overcomes the distraction of all the people who are attacking him unfairly. So we'll be back tomorrow night. We'll be at 7 on Lindell's speech, and at 8 we'll be on X. This is our really solid home, X. And you come here on X and you'll see us tomorrow night, okay? And we'll have plenty of news. And I bet you half of what we told you, you're not going to get anywhere else. God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to